Peace. This is Wise for Wise Words Media back at y'all for another round. And this weekend, we just came off the NBA's All-Star Weekend, which to me, in my personal history, is what ushers in my birthday weekend. It always coincides with All-Star Weekend. So whenever I see All-Star Friday night, it's like, yeah, that feeling come back. You know what I'm saying? Like I start feeling like, yeah, it's birthday time to celebrate. So I'm watching, and then Saturday hit, and I'm watching the dunk contest. And keep in mind, NBA All Star Weekend this year was in Utah, Salt Lake City. When I tune in, I see this little 5-foot Mormon. I said, "Oh, the NBA think they slick. I know what y'all trying to do. Okay, y'all trying to expand the reach of this thing. All right, I ain't mad at y'all, man. All right, good job, man. It was entertaining, man. Dudes had a little 5-foot Mormon jumping over women and all that. Kids. I don't know what he was doing out there, but that dude was double pumping and yo, good job. But anyway, shout to him, man, McGarland and all that. But there was one negative takeaway from the All-Star Weekend, and that was what was supposed to be the main course itself, the All-Star Game. Very lackluster, no defense being played. One player even called it a glorified layup line. Like, that's not what you want to hear, man. That's not what you want to see. So, in this week's edition of Top 5 Tuesdays, I'm going to give you top 5 All-Star games of all time. Number 1, let's start here with my main man. In the 2015 NBA All-Star Game, we saw a historic performance by none other than my main man of this generation, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook put up an amazing 27 points in 11 minutes in the first half. Unbelievable. And then he ends up ending the game with 41 points. Russ was on fire. It was one of the best performances of Russell Westbrook career. And this was when the All-Star Game was still the All-Star Game. When it was where people, it was before the team so-and-so and team so-and-so. This is East versus West. This is where, like, it was still competitive. And, that's what was missing, man. It's the defensive element, the wanting it more than the other, based on, like, who won the year before or who's got the most wins historically. So it was a different time, but Russ did his thing. And that game was special because it was kind of like a coming-of-age all-star game for, like, the guys who would be today's front and center stars. Like, you had KD in that game, LeBron, Westbrook. You had Steph Curry. You had a lot of dudes that today are, like, the elders in the game. And at that point, they were the ones that had just arrived. Like, they just stepped into their prime. James Harden just got a big bag from Houston at that time. And he was balling. So it was a dope game in that, too. Like, that was, like, their coming-of-age game. So 2015 All-Star Game gets number 5 for me. Number 4 will be the 2001 NBA All-Star Game. This All-Star Game was dope. It was special because you got another, so to speak, coming-of-age game. Because you had guys that were already in their 4th and 5th All-Star Game that were the guys that would carry the NBA throughout the 2000s. So, we talking about Allen Iverson was an All-Star, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Chris Webber. It was like a who's who at that point of the guys that would usher in the next phase of the league. And that to me was dope, but Even better than that, another one of my main mans, Allen Iverson. My number one, my main man. You know, off the strength of Ahmad Rashad, I always call somebody that I really mess with my main man, but my main man, aka my favorite player of all time, Allen Iverson, put on a show. That's where you get the historic. And back then, everybody wanted to do a move. Everybody wanted to have the move, right? That is going to be spoken about for at least the next week or so in the All-Star game. And Iverson had the move that year, where he hit them with the fake alley-oop to himself and laid it up. Caught them with the fake. Oh, beautiful. But yeah, Allen Iverson ended up winning the All-Star Game MVP honors, and that to me makes it even more legendary. So, 2001 All-Star Game at number 4. Number 3, the 1992 All-Star Game. This one was special, very special in NBA history, because this is the one where months prior to that, you had Magic Johnson step away from the NBA. He announced his retirement due to contracting the HIV, and Magic was one of the guys who made the NBA a national game. Remember, the NBA was in like last place, at one point, you know what I'm saying, like in the 70s and even the early 80s. Basketball was so unimportant on the larger scale of entertainment that it used to be like tape recorded. They would tape the game and then play it like hours later. It was never live because it wasn't that important until Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, those two guys together. That's why you can't speak one name without the other. You always got to bring up the other. They really took the NBA to another level. And Michael Jordan ended up taking it to another stratosphere, making it a global game. But what made it a national game, what made it like huge in America, was Magic Johnson and Larry Bird's rivalry that started in college and then ended up from Michigan State versus Indiana to Celtics versus Lakers. That ended up being the backbone of the NBA we have today. So when he retires and he announces retirement, that was like devastating. Many people were hurt by it, emotional by it. So the NBA decides to give Magic Johnson a comeback game, come say hi type thing. So he comes to Utah, same Salt Lake City that we just hosted this year. And when he comes to this game, Magic shows the world he ain't lose a step, man. He still had it. In fact, at the end of the game, this dude is... It's one of the most special moments in All-Star Game history. If I'm putting this list together for my young listeners and for my hoop heads of all ages to go back and watch these games, because these are the ones that show you what the All-Star Game really was about. It was a celebration of the highest level of skill. So that meant skill offensively and defensively. Today, these dudes want to share jerseys and sign jerseys, and it's a different game. But back then, it was about competition, about who's better on both sides of the court, offense and defense. So Magic starts dribbling towards the end of the game, starts calling players out. He calls out his best friend, Isaiah Thomas, who's one of the greatest, if not the greatest point guard, arguably. Comes get, boom, 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 scores. calls Michael Jordan. Come get this work. Boom. This dude's hitting turnaround 3-point shots, and man, it was one of the most. I wasn't a fan of the NBA yet, but I remember being young around my brother and my cousins, and they were fans, and my cousins' friends, and they were watching this game in my brother's room, and these guys are going crazy, and I come in. Like I got into playing basketball, but I wasn't into the NBA yet. So that was one of the moments, seeing Magic Johnson call people out and seeing my brother and my cousins getting hype. And that to me was what was like, oh shoot. Okay, I'm starting to play basketball outside, but on TV, there's the product right here that got my family going crazy. So that was the first thing that made me want to watch the NBA, was seeing Magic Johnson close out that All-Star game. So that to me would always be historic. So yeah, 1992 All-Star game, Magic Johnson gets the MVP. That's number 3. Number 2, this one is dope. This one, I had a hard time deciding which one should be number 1 and number 2. But I'm going to go with this one for number 2. The 1987 NBA All-Star Game. The 1987 NBA All-Star Game has the greatest collection of Hall of Fame, greatest playing legends of all time in one basketball court. We are talking about, this All-Star Game has Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Moses Malone, Charles Barkley. The collection of stars. Dr. J, Julius Erving. 1987. If you're going to take anything away from my list that I comprise today, watch the 1987 All-Star Game, please. Watch that. You got Clyde Drexler. You got, oh man, this game was special, man. This was the greatest collection of talent to be on one court ever. You got what's his name? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, almost 20 years in. People think what LeBron James is doing is special. And it is. Not taking anything away from LeBron. But what I think, for poor choice of words, what I meant to say was, people think it's unique. That has been done already. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then he hit them with the most unstoppable move in NBA history to this day. He gave him the skyhook. Post up, skyhook. And to see him make that in an All-Star game, and the nice backstory about that All-Star game, my brother, he was a sports fan. He came over here from Panama, and he had that game recorded on tape. And I always knew that game was special. There was that game glue. There was like an aura around that VHS tape. And I was like, damn, I used to watch that. And around the time, I would say 1992, when I started going outside to play ball, as opposed to doing anything else, dodgeball, rollerblading, roller skating, I devoted myself around that time to playing ball, 92, 93. And I would watch that tape of the All-Star game, and that's when I learned to play or try to emulate Magic Johnson. Because it was something special. Every time he held the ball, every time he took that first bounce, it was almost like, okay, my turn. Boom, he would bounce and he would survey the floor. And Whenever he saw something, if I go this way, the natural reaction of the defenders to come towards me, which will open up this man on the back door. So you would see when Magic would see a moment like that, he'll push it. He'll throw the ball a little further, maybe a couple feet in front of him. Throw it further so he could run. Catch that. Then that's when he'll hit you with the... Oh, I'm going this way, but the ball went that way. Boom. Yo, I started to study this man. And then even one of my favorite pass ever is the one where that I used to do that on a reg, man. I studied that man. So yeah, man. That All-Star game, greatest collection of stars. And you want to talk about defense and offense at its highest, that All-Star game. And number one, that slightly edged out 1987 to me is 2003. 2003, you have, for one, it is the final All-Star game of the greatest player who ever played the game. At least consensus says. The greatest player is Michael Jordan. This was his last All-Star game. And that in and of itself garners number one. But not only that, this was the most competitively played All-Star game ever. You want to talk about a game that was taken like it was like Game 7 of a playoff series. This game, you had... This thing went down to the wire. First, I believe it was the East that was leading. Then the West came back. And then in the final minutes, it was like the Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury show. These two brothers, and those were two of my favorite. Those were two of my favorite dudes back then. Seeing them on the come up. So to see them take this game by storm, it was the Marbury and Iverson show down the stretch. They were the ones that kept scoring, making this game a competitive game to the point where it got pushed to overtime. And then Michael Jordan shined, man. And Michael Jordan was about to have another storybook ending. When Mike was about to fade away, he hit Shawn Marion on the right side. Backed up Shawn Marion, fade away by Mike with only seconds left. And then somebody that I know he must feel bad to this day, so I ain't even gonna say his name, man. Out of that much love and respect for that player, I ain't even gonna say his name. But the brother committed a foul, and free throws were hit, game over. And Kevin Garnett ends up winning the All-Star Game MVP honors for that one. And Magic won the All-Star Game MVP honors for 92, just in case I didn't bring that up. So, top 5 to go check out: 2015 NBA All-Star Game, 2001 All-Star Game, 1992, 1987, and 2003. Those are my 5 best All-Star games for this top 5 Tuesday. Let me know what y'all think. How about that list? What's your list? Which is your favorite All-Star game or moments or memories? Drop it in the comment section. Hit the like, subscribe. Let's build. Peace.